The Dragon Prince is one of the very few animated shows that knows how to write romance. Even a lot of shows I otherwise like, such as Avatar: The Last Airbender, stumble a little when it comes to romance. It's clear that romance is not really a top priority in these shows, which is fine, but it does mean that when the shows do pick moments to prioritize romance, the result can be rather awkward and stilted. The Dragon Prince is different. Even though the romantic relationship between Rayla and Callum was not originally planned by the show's creators, they realized during the second season that they had unwittingly built the components for an electric romantic relationship. So from there, the writers planted the seeds that finally led to the two of them becoming a couple near the midpoint of Season 3. And this led to a number of wonderful moments, some adorable, some genuinely poignant, and some both, going forward in the show. The evolution in their relationship was relatively quick, but it felt surprisingly natural. That is an accomplishment. So how did they get to here from where they were at the start of the series, where Rayla was about to kill Callum because she believed he was his brother Ezrin? And he was so uncertain about her as well. But now they're both committed to each other, and now they're both willing to bear any challenge for the sakes of each other. That's how much they love and trust one another. So what led to the development of this relationship? Let's investigate. Let's investigate how the show told us, in ways both subtle and not so subtle, that this relationship was going to happen in the future. In Season 1, there are less of them, as the creators of the Dragon Prince were not, at this point, sure that the relationship between these two, the romantic relationship, was going to happen. Nonetheless, there still are a few clues to the relationship that would later unfold. As they travel around, you can see them letting their guard down and accepting that there is nothing wrong with caring about each other. However, you could take these moments as platonic instead of subtly romantic, as I'm sure some viewers did. It's difficult to pinpoint the exact time Rayla realized she was in love with him, though it's almost certainly before he realized he was in love with her, for reasons I will explain later. Sometimes we do not recognize feelings when they first come upon us. Sometimes we're just so swept up in the essence of someone that we need to take a step back and examine the situation before we really realize that we are in fact in love with them. But there are a few moments that hint at the relationship that would blossom between them. Ultimately, the most similar thing between these two very different beings is that they both lack self-confidence. This is because they're both isolated. What they find in each other is an ability to transcend that lack and really open themselves up to each other. They create something beautiful in the bond they share. When Callum asks Rayla about Xadia, she is at first dismissive and callous, but as he persists, she begins to open up, and you can see that she clearly misses her home, even though she's afraid to say as much. This is her bond with Callum. He is someone she can reveal her deepest secrets and greatest vulnerabilities to, without fearing that he will reject her. Instead, he will be there for her, and even though she pretends to find his grandiose speeches praising her quite annoying, in reality she treasures these speeches. She cares about them, and they mean a lot to her, especially considering her lack of self-confidence. This bond is one of complete honesty, and that leads to a strong connection between them. This is especially apparent during the scene in the storm in the middle of episode 204. The writers of The Dragon Prince revealed that this right here is the moment in which they decided that Rayla and Callum should become a couple. Typically, Rayla is the more adventurous one, whereas Callum is the more restrained and skeptical one. But here, Callum is determined to prove his worth. He wants to journey into the storm. Rayla wants to try to stop him, but she knows that is not going to work. She knows him. And she knows how stubborn and recalcitrant he becomes when he just gets that committed to doing something. She knows there is no turning him back, but she also wishes deeply that she could turn him back. She cares about him, and she knows what could happen to him. The fault Callum falls victim to here is one of her faults. It's why she attempted to kill Ezrin the prince despite having nothing personal against him, and despite not hating humans nearly as much as she is supposed to, considering that she is an elf whose parents were traitors. It's this desire to prove yourself, even when your methods for doing so betray the essence of who you are. This does not necessarily mean they are in love, but it does hint at their connection and the extent to which they know each other, which places their relationship in a wholly different class from the relationship between Callum and Claudia. That relationship was built on giddy adolescent attraction, most of it on Callum's end. Now, there is nothing wrong with giddy adolescent attraction. I'm as much a proponent of a good crush as anyone else. But it's not a model for a real, long-lasting relationship. For that, you need something deeper, something more profound, and that something is complete and honest understanding, which is what develops between Callum and Rayla. This, more than anything, is what causes Rayla to fall in love with Callum. Yes, he's a dork, and yes, he's awkward, but when she's with him, she can breathe better. She doesn't have to suffer in silence. She doesn't have to worry that he will reject her if he learns the truth about her. And if she tells the truth about herself and what she's feeling and what she's afraid of. This leads to the most obvious instance of Rayllum foreshadowing, which is the moment at the end of Season 2 where she nearly admits her feelings for him. This is when he is unconscious after having used dark magic. There are those who believe this near declaration was a little bit rushed. And I certainly see where they're coming from, but considering how Rayla does not show emotion very well, considering that she closes her true vulnerable feelings off from those around her, it's not surprising necessarily that we did not get any concrete instance of her harboring these deep romantic feelings for him before she nearly blurted them out to his unconscious body. why she is ready to admit her feelings for him here, and she very nearly does admit them. She would have said everything had he not awoken when he did. Well, it's complicated, but it mostly comes down to two major factors. The first is her guilt concerning how she treated Callum after he used dark magic. Especially considering Callum was sent a much stronger message by how the world wreaked devastation upon his body as punishment. And the second is that he is not conscious to hear her. Despite how Callum has led Rayla to be more open about how she feels, and to not close herself off from the world around her, she is still nervous about admitting her romantic feelings toward him. What if he doesn't return them? What if she confesses everything, and it destroys their friendship? She has depended upon that friendship a lot. After Rayla's near admission, it's pretty clear they are going to eventually get together. The only question is when, and the answer was sooner than we thought, sooner than any of us thought. At the start of Season 3, Rayla defends Callum to Soul Regum, and even though this does not work, and even though she calls Callum a friend rather than a romantic interest, it is clear that her feelings toward him run deep. At this point, there has been enough foreshadowing that we want to see these two enter into a romantic relationship, which they finally do by the midpoint of Season 3. It is a long road to getting there, but it is wholly and completely worth it. It's a genuinely satisfying payoff. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can, and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching The Dragon Prince. It is a brilliant show. It's evocative, it's complex, it's nuanced, it's challenging, and I can't wait to see where it goes from here. I especially can't wait to see what it does with Rayllum. So tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon, I promise you that. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.